Hello and welcome to the blog of the month for 2022, and I just got a few things that I wanted to kind of go over real quick before we get our pattern instructions and ready to start sewing. So if you've got a kit, this pertains to you, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information about how to go about using that fabric that you got so that you have enough to make the entire quilt. So when the patterns are written, I am assuming that you are cutting a strip off of a width of fabric. So for instance, this is a width of fabric here, and let's say it says that you need a 3-inch block. So then we are going to cut a strip that is 3 inches. And I'm just going to pretend to cut this. Okay, so now we have a 3-inch strip, and then to make a square, I'll open it up and then cut from this way and continue to use my strip. So that is how the fabric is intended to be used in according with the pattern and determining how much yardage you should get. So with that being said, when you get your fabric, feel free to starch it. I like to use a pretty heavy starch on my fabric. And then I do have a video on how to starch, so you can check that out if you haven't starched before or just need a refresher on that. But it is pretty helpful because we have lots of tiny little pieces that we're going to be working with, and starching just makes it go together a little bit better. So once I have all my fabric starched and pressed, and I have it nice and flat, I always want to keep it flat. I don't want to fold this and put it in a box or anything like that where it's going to introduce a new fold and then I have to press it again. So how I manage my fabric is I have several of these design boards, and this is just a foam core board, like a 1/4 inch thick, and I have glued some batting to the top of it. And actually this one here, I don't even have anything glued onto it. It's just a board. I got one and I needed one, so I put my fabrics right on it. So once I have my fabrics pressed, I'm going to just layer them all just like this on a board. Then I can cut from that as needed, and then I just store underneath my table here. I just slide my boards, and then when it's time to use the fabric again, I just pull the board out and I know everything's there, it's flat, it's ready to go. So design boards to me are very helpful. Okay, so we have all of our fabrics, and within the first pattern you are going to get a sheet that has all of the fabrics listed, a little print of what the fabric is, and then what I have called it. So for example, the red with white polka dots is referred to as red A, and we'll call that red A throughout all the pattern. So definitely keep your charts, any papers that you have with the block of the month information, keep all of that together because we will refer back to it. Okay, so when you get your first month's instructions, there will be this sheet, and what this sheet kind of shows is probably too much information, but some people are concerned about their fabric usage and make sure that they cut it correctly so that they have enough to finish the quilt. So what I have done is I've listed the strips that I have cut from each piece of fabric. And this is just a general information, kind of a guideline. So when it says strips, there's going to be listed numbers, and those are in inches of what particular width of cuts strips that I had for each one of the fabrics making the entire quilt. So some of them have lots of them listed, some of them just have a few. It's also going to say cut, and that is going to equal the biggest size piece that you will need from that particular fabric. So I would recommend going through and finding the biggest size cut cut a strip that matches that increment and cut those pieces and kind of set them aside. So again, I would have another design board. I would cut my bigger pieces or my biggest strip set first, and then place all of anything that I have cut, I put on a different design board. So that keeps separate what I have cut and then what I have ready to go. So I'm going to be working from what I have cut first, and then as I need to cut more, then I'll get my whole pieces off of here. So I'm going to go ahead and, for instance, we'll just say one of them needs a 5.5 inch. So I'm going to cut a 5.5 inch strip, and then it says I might need one 5.5 inch square. So I'm going to cut a 5.5 inch square, and that is going to be the biggest piece that I will need of this particular fabric throughout the block of the month. So you could use the piece this month, you might use the piece in 6 months, but at least you have the biggest piece cut, and then everything else you cut after that, you will definitely have enough fabric for. But as another kind of a way that you could use this sheet, as you cut a strip from a full piece of fabric, you cut your largest strip, I might take a pencil and just cross off that I have cut that strip size. And then anything that is cut, again, goes on a different design board. And then I always know to work from here first. Here's the pieces that I have cut, so that when I get my instructions and it says, oh, I need a 3-inch square. Well, let's see. Do I need to cut a 3-inch strip? No, but there is a 3.5 inch strip. So what I would do is then take a piece of fabric from here, cut my 3.5 inch strip, cut off the pieces that I need for that particular block, mark off that I've cut that strip, and then all my cut pieces will then go on this design board, and so I can work from that. So again, this is just kind of a guideline on how to best manage the fabric that is in your kit so that you have enough, but with each of the increments there are an additional 5 inches added, so you should have more than enough. But so if you're wanting that information, it is available. If it doesn't make any sense, don't worry about it. You are going to have enough fabric. But definitely, if you're in the shop and have any questions, let me know and we'll go through everything. So again, I just said, so anything cut, I just layer it on the design board. And this is fabric that I'm using for this project. And then if I'm doing another project, I would have another design board with that fabric on it, so that I keep everything separate and by project. And then I will just stack these up, place them under my table, and they're ready to go for the next time. So if there's any questions, again, just when you're in the shop, let me know and we can kind of go over it. But you shouldn't have any problems, and I look forward to making our quilt this year, and we'll see you soon.